You're listening to SoFloRadio.com.
Stuart Reed, attorney, mediator, and yoga instructor, here for the next hour to talk about law, mediation, and yoga. So let's drop into our breath and come to order. The show is now in session.
Hey, here we are again for another conversation on the Stuart Reed Law and Mediation Yogi Show, always with George Rodriguez by my side here to keep us in line and moving forward, and welcoming back Nancy Brodzki, my friend, a family law attorney in Broward County, a mediator, and also the president of the Collaborative Family Law Professionals of South Florida, correct? And the vice president, Dr. Randy Heller, a therapist, mental health therapist, and family counselor. You want to say yourself so
yes,
I get it right?
I'm a marriage and family therapist and mental health counselor and vice president of the Collaborative Family Law Professionals. I'm also a certified family mediator, parenting coordinator.
Okay, we're going to go all through that anytime anybody wants to talk about their backgrounds and how it relates to our conversation. Today, I invited them on the show. Well, first of all, I'll give a little bit of background. As I walked in the room, George was talking with Nancy about surprises, and I thought that was the theme of today. We didn't, in every show, I never know what we're
I gave her a can of
about.
peanut brittle, but guess what? It was snakes.
Oh, snakes.
Yeah. That's the most amazing invention ever. Did you know that they had these
Have
things?
you been doing that since you were 6 years old?
No, it's been being done to me. Somebody did it to me yesterday again. I just
And
and
get you every
I really
time.
like peanut brittle. They get me. I'm gullible, is what I'm trying to say. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So we won't prey upon your gullibility today.
Too
We'll be
late.
nice because we're here as yogis as well. I met Randy last year. Can I call you Randy on the
please
show
call
while
me
we're
Randy.
having
Please call
this
me
conversation? And Nancy, we met years earlier in court as attorneys, and then at this collaborative family law training program. Nancy and Randy were big parts of the process. I think they had invited you. Put it together. You invited the trainers and
I did, yes.
assembled the agenda.
Yes, and our group sponsors the training so that we can get new people trained every year.
And I was surprised to see on this agenda for a 3-day program that you had two things that sort of related to what I had just put myself into as a yoga instructor. Last year, I took a yoga teacher training program in April. I've been teaching since then, and your program, I think, was January.
Yes. Right.
So I'd been teaching yoga for about 7 months, and you had on your agenda a meditation one morning, and then a yoga instructor to talk about how yoga can improve a collaborative family law process, more or less, right?
Yes, we actually had her there to, Deb Heslin came in and talked about mindfulness and emotional regulation and stress management and settlement conferences, which all tie in very closely together.
And so you, when I came in, you were telling me that you're going to have something similar on the program again this year. You've been to a collaborative family law a training program, or there was one coming up in Philadelphia, an international training program, and they have yoga on their agenda there as well. Why is it that it seems that yoga is an element of training for collaborative family law professionals, who usually include lawyers who are trying to help people navigate through a divorce without getting too many bumps and scrapes, therapists, psychologists, family counselors, financial planners? These are the professionals involved, but where does yoga fit into it?
Well, as you must know, yoga is an excellent form of relaxation and emotional regulation and focus. And so what we have found, and the collaborative community has found, that helping people to regulate their emotions in a very highly charged situation and circumstance around divorce can allow them to make more logical decisions and to communicate more effectively and to stay focused and on point, and to move forward in the best way possible. As you know, yoga is all about focus and mindfulness and paying attention. And we as professionals have to remain focused and mindful and pay attention, and the clients do as well. So it's a beautiful, beautiful connection.
Well, it makes me think of what I recall from the ancient yoga texts, the Sutras of Patanjali. Maybe you've heard about them. There's the first sort of written guide about yoga, and that's where they say that the 8-limb system that we know of today has derived from. And they say the goal of yoga is to calm the fluctuations of the mind. So as you're saying, to keep somebody's focused and not making fear-based decisions. And
that's right. That's exactly right.
And the vision that came to my mind is sort of like if you have a whole ball of yarn all knotted together. You can't just pull it at randomly. You have to look at it and think about it and know where to and how to pull the strings to unknot it. And that's, I guess, how it helps in a collaborative process, that you just don't grab at things randomly and try to pull things apart.
Yeah, that's pretty well said, Stuart. Actually, I try to start all of my collaborative meetings with mindfulness practice. So everyone sitting around the table is breathing and focused and slowing down their minds so that they can make more logical decisions. And then
when you say a collaborative meeting, I'm saying
sure.
you don't mean like a meeting of collaborative professionals talking about collaborative family processes. You're talking about actual process with the parties there, the husband, the wife. You start that with
I do
yoga. Okay, go on.
I do. Before we start every meeting, I invite everyone to take a breath and to get focused and to get grounded and prepare themselves to move through this process. The process is very emotionally charged. People come in and their minds are racing about everything they want and everything they need and everything they're angry about and everything they're hurting about. And so it's really a nice way of getting everyone to the table together.
So what do you say? Yeah, I want to know what she says. I mean, I think you said take a breath, but
Yes.
It's probably more than just take a breath, right?
I'd start it inviting everyone to take a breath and to visualize, actually, to create a vision of what they hope to accomplish that day, to create a vision of peace and of ease and of a successful outcome, whatever that is for them and however they define that. And usually if they have children, and most often our clients do have children when they're coming to the table, I invite them to envision their children and how they want this process to go for their children. And that usually brings them right back to center.
And even if they don't have minor children, they might have adult children, or they might have wider family units that they can focus on as part of the reason why collaborative is indicated in family law so particularly, because unlike any other kind of dispute, let's face it, the law deals with legal disputes. It's dispute resolution. And the courts is one method of resolving those disputes. It is traditionally the method for resolving disputes that neighbors couldn't solve among themselves. And having people working from a framework of how are we going to solve this problem together is so particularly indicated in family law, because these are people for whom there will be enduring family relationships.
When you say indicated, it sounds sort of like talking about a prescription.
Medically
like
indicated.
Well, right.
Absolutely.
That is.
It's not, look, collaborative process is not for every situation. And it's really important to know when collaborative process is going to frankly be a waste of time and resources, and when it's going to be useful in solving the problem. Some cases cannot be resolved through collaboration. Dr. Heller and I, Randy and I, have been involved in such cases where the clients have not bought into the idea. And I find in my experience, that it is the client's buy-in to the process that really determines whether or not the collaboration is going to be successful, despite whatever challenges may come up during the process. It's not kumbaya, but I love meditation, yoga, Randy's idea of helping everyone focus, not just for the clients, but for the lawyers, because the lawyers come in with really busy minds and really busy agendas also.
Well, actually, it's my understanding that they're now requiring meditation classes at U of M Law School. And some
Requiring
of the
it?
yes,
I mean, I know they have a department
Yeah,
on
no, I
mindfulness, but,
was told that it's required as a part of the program. Don't quote me, I could be wrong. However, what we are learning is that it really is being integrated into every aspect of people's lives and professionals' lives. When I went through my doc program at Nova in the Department of Family Therapy, we were required to take a course on hypnotherapy and mindfulness meditation, and I use it in my practice with everyone that I see in some aspect or another. I think we should circle back, if we can, to explaining a little bit about the collaborative process, because I'm thinking that perhaps there are listeners who may not even know how we organize the collaborative process, which is we have a team.
Take us there.
Yeah, we have a team working together. And so everyone can focus and visualize that team sitting much like we are here today around the table.
And they're all there to support who?
We are there to support the clients, first and foremost, and each other, actually.
And
we
usually
have
a couple.
a couple. So we have a team of professionals. We'll have either one or more mental health professionals. If we have one, they are a neutral facilitator, really, actually, as its name implies, facilitating the entire process. And we have two attorneys who are representing in a non-adversarial way, as Nancy was talking about, their respective clients. And then we'll have a neutral financial professional working. Sometimes we have a child specialist, and or if either of the clients need further support, we have what we call coaches, and those are supportive mental health professionals working with each entity of the couple. And so we're really embracing the entire family, trying to provide for everyone's needs in the family. And also as a facilitator, I'm there trying to provide for the professionals' needs as well. Stuart, you're a lawyer and Nancy's a lawyer, and both of you, I'm sure, have been very successful in court at times. And it's not hard to fall back on that kind of litigious win-lose power control.
Well, you want your clients to get the best results.
That's right. You want your clients to get right. And so we look at and focus on a different definition of the best results, right? So in our mind, the best results are the way that we can help a family to restructure and really move on as a family. I'm on two cases right now, in I'm on several cases right now, but in two particular cases, both of my families, see, this is how we feel about them, my families, the families who I'm working with, they spent the hurricane together, and they helped each other, and they took care of their kids. And one couple is an adult couple. They're in their late 60s, and they had their kids and their grandkids, and everybody circled around. And one of the clients contacted me right before the hurricane and said, "What do you think? Should I let him in the house for the hurricane?" And I said, "How do you think you're going to feel if you don't?" And I never heard from her again until after the hurricane. And she wrote to me and said they were all together and they helped each other. And that's really the goal, because they really need to do that for the rest of their lives, because they are a family.
Well, you back to yoga, too, to tie it in. The word yoga itself means union.
Okay,
so you're sort
perfect.
of trying to bring yourself in touch with your inner self, trying to like we said, calm the fluctuations of the mind, that your mind isn't caught up in the past or worried about the future.
So
You're
true.
here in the present moment. But also, I think it means on many different levels too, like union with people, bringing
Yes.
people together.
Yes.
And the system of yoga that we're all familiar with, where the postures come from, the asanas, that's one of the limbs. The first two limbs are really sort of like ethical practices, things that you're supposed to refrain from doing and things you're supposed to not refrain from doing. And the very first one, ahimsa, which is not harming.
Right.
And so with the inner practice of yoga, you're not supposed to harm yourself. You're not supposed to criticize yourself, judge yourself. But also, that's, I guess, why a lot of yogis are vegetarians. They don't want to harm animals, but also you're not supposed to harm other people. So it seems that collaborative family process is trying to adhere to that principle of not harming. Don't hurt the family. Don't hurt the kids.
It's a big
Don't hurt
part-
people's psyches.
That's
It's
right.
a very big part of the entire philosophy behind collaborative practice. Having been a litigator for the entire 32 years of my career, but for the first 22 years not really knowing collaborative practice didn't exist in my world until about 2000.
It was in the vocabulary.
About 2006. So, while it began in 1991 and while Florida had chapters as early as 1999 or 2000, it just had not come onto my radar screen until about 2006. And the minute I heard about it, it immediately drew me in because I knew that the traditional process did nothing, absolutely nothing to support the family. Everything about litigation pulls the family apart until we decide at a certain point, we the lawyers and our egos, and when I mean ego, I don't mean the I'm so great ego, I mean the ego of I know what is the best outcome. I know what should happen here. And then we throw these people together in separate rooms, of course, because we don't trust our clients to talk to one another in traditional litigation. We put them into separate rooms and we send the shuttle diplomat known as the mediator
court-ordered mediation.
back and
Right.
forth until an agreement is hammered out. Come hell or high water, we don't care what's in it as long as they sign it. And for decades, I watched clients come to agreements in mediation under those kinds of circumstances. And then within, 48 hours, they're going, what did I do? Right. Why is this in the agreement? Why is this thing over here that I really thought was important isn't even mentioned? And they were really unhappy with the results.
But why would that not happen in a collaborative process?
Because we
though?
do it in piecemeal. We do it in a process. We do it in a way that the clients have bought into it all the way along.
Well, the other part of it is, excuse me, Nancy, the other part of it is we're teaching them a different way to do it. So
Yep, they're engaged.
Right. So I tell every couple that I work with that they're not expected to know how to problem solve and communicate and be respectful, because if they did know how to do those things, they probably wouldn't be getting divorced.
Exactly.
However, so when they're sitting in front of us and we as a team, one, are modeling effective communication and mutual respect and problem-solving skills. We're teaching that to them as we go. That's one. The other is we are, as Nancy is saying, empowering them to make decisions about their lives. We are tapping into their resources and letting them know that we believe in their ability to make decisions. So we're there just as a catalyst and teaching them how to do that in a much more strategic way. The other thing that you're reminding me of, Nancy, is that I don't know one collaborative practitioner who practices philosophically the way that Stu Webb, who developed collaborative practice, designed it. And I say that as a caveat, but it's an important one. So I don't know any collaborative practitioners who practice in the way it was written that wouldn't say this has transformed their own lives and healed their own lives. Actually, when Stu Webb developed this, he's a Minnesota attorney, and he was a very, very powerful litigator. And by around 1990, even before that, he had become an alcoholic because he would go to court every day and he would win in court, and he would come home and feel devastated that he was destroying families. So to your point of self-care versus self-harm, he said, I can't do this anymore. I've got to learn a better way. There's got to be a better way. And he went into rehab and developed a meditation practice. Actually, the story goes he became a Buddhist, developed meditation practice. And actually, one of my first sessions that I had with him at a training, he was handing out stones to every member of the audience, and he asked us to hold them every time we went into a collaborative meeting and be mindful of why we were there and what the intention was. And so, as I said, and as Nancy was saying, it's not only transformative for our clients, but it's transformative for us as professionals.
It absolutely is. And, right now, a lot of us, especially here in South Florida, in the last number of years, we've lost a number of lawyers to suicide. And suicide is very high among the legal profession, second only to doctors, and then we're followed by dentists and accountants. And it's rampant, as is addiction, because addiction, substance abuse, is one way of masking the despair, the problems that we have lost effective coping mechanisms for. So a lot of times you have a high incidence of substance abuse. A lot of this is driven by having to do things that really don't align with who we are as people. And collaborative practice lets the lawyers do what we're really trained to do: solve problems, give the right legal advice, but it also eliminates this adversarial winner-take-all, I've got to win this chess match of strategic legal strategy.
But if the client doesn't want to be involved in a collaborative process,
well, then it isn't going to be collaborative.
Right.
Yeah, and then they're going to be playing that game, but still, but you could still be a litigator and still be a happy person, right? You're not saying that you have to be that litigation necessarily leads to suicide. And I have a CLE course, a continuing legal education course for lawyers, Yoga and Mindfulness for Lawyers. The Florida Bar approved it for 2 continuing education classes. And I think that that's sort of one of the things I try to promote in this class to lawyers is that you can benefit from mindfulness.
No doubt.
You can, and it doesn't have to be complicated. All you have to do is focus on something neutral and let go of the constant, what we call monkey mind, the chattering in your head all the time saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. Why didn't you do this? You could have done this better. That professionals can be happier people if they can just let go of that chattering in their head, realize that that's not who they are, that the one that's listening to the chattering is who you are and what you decide to do with it. And I'm going to just change gears a little bit. We were talking about the principles, ethical underpinnings of yoga. One of them, of the refrain from doing, is aparigraha, which is not being attached to things. You try to refrain from being attached to things, not just physical things like renouncing wealth, but also mental things,
Right.
that things have to be a certain way, outcomes.
Right.
And I think sort of that maybe in a litigation process, you're hearing your client and your client says, okay, I want you to achieve these strategies and you do what you can. But in a collaborative process, you may be counseling the clients and saying, maybe you got to let go of the past and trying to win old wars. And, well, he did this to me, she did that to me. Why should I be flexible in this situation when they weren't flexible with me when I needed it? And also letting go of what you think the future has to be like. The things that sort of take a breath, get in the moment. And so so is that sort of part of the yoga that you practice in collaborative law as a parigraha?
Absolutely, because I remember when I was training as a therapist, one of my professors said to me, you need not to be invested in the outcome. And I said, well, wait a minute. How can I not be invested in the outcome? These people are coming to me for help, and I have to be sure that they get what they need. And he said, exactly. And you have to let them decide what it is that they need. He said, be invested in the process, much like we are in yoga, right? We're invested in the process. We're focused on what we're doing at the moment, but not the outcome. And I think if we can allow our clients not to be so driven toward a particular outcome, the best outcomes for the whole family flows. And that's the other part of it. It's really a holistic. It's not about mine, yours, right, wrong. You know, I have a quote on my email, and it's from Rumi. You must know Rumi, a famous philosopher. And it says, out beyond right and wrong, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. And that's really what we try to instill, or what I try to instill in my clients, that there is no right or wrong. It's beyond that, because I'm going to think I'm right, and then that makes you wrong, and you're going to think you're right, and that makes me wrong. And we're in a win-lose there, and it's really a lose-lose. And so we try to help them to come to a win-win, where everybody gets a little bit of something that they need.
It's like a different paradigm than, I've said this before, but I've read it, I didn't make up the term, called flourishment of the most cooperative, as a different paradigm, nice. and instead of survival of the fittest.
Right.
Like, the people who can cooperate most and get along with other people can flourish.
Sure.
You make connections, and we all lift each other up. No person's an island.
And that's what it is when we're around a collaborative table. People leave feeling better about themselves, the work they're doing, the clients. I was in a collaborative session the other day, right before the hurricane, with some clients. And prior to us beginning the process, these people weren't even speaking to each other. And again, they were making plans to take care of their kids and what they were going to do during the storm. But they do this other times as well, because they're learning how to do it. The other thing that's really important is I often will give them a mantra to think about during a collaborative session, something to focus on. And oftentimes, the mantra that I offer to my clients when the other person is making them angry is reminding them that that's why they're getting divorced, right?
Oh, yeah.
So their mantra, why does she do this? Why does she always do this? This is why you're getting divorced.
Right.
And so if they can keep that in their minds, they can focus on that, and they can look across the table, and when she does something that makes him angry, he can just look at her and say, this is why we're getting divorced,
right.
in his mind. And I often say, don't say it
Yeah,
out
not
loud.
out loud.
Just say it in your mind and focus on that. And that helps to get centered and to be able to move forward. So I can care about you, I can care about our children, I can care about our family, and at the same time know why we're getting divorced. And that oftentimes helps with that frustration of, why are they doing this and why are they doing that? So it does help.
Indeed.
So some people might think it's crazy that here we are lawyers and we're involved in a healing process. You're healing
It's
the
a
people.
transformational process. Now, divorce is a major life event that causes enormous stress on all the individuals involved. And like any process that has these kinds of damaging effects, there is a healing process. And for us as professionals, as a lawyer, Randy has always been in a healing profession. Lawyers are not traditionally seen as being in a healing profession. Helping, yes. Healing, not so much. And a lot of family law attorneys go, I don't do hand-holding. Go get a therapist. It is cheaper if you're only getting a therapist and you're never relying on your lawyer for any healing advice. But I can tell you, as a lawyer and as a person, knowing when I'm doing a collaborative case, and I'm fortunate to be involved in a number of them now, it's less than 10% of my practice. One day I hope for it to be at least 50%. But I get to feel like I am healing, and healing my client even more so than when I am in a traditional litigated attorney-client relationship, where sometimes there is healing that takes place with my client, and I'm privileged to be a part of it and to see it. But in collaborative, I feel like every part of what I'm doing is helping heal the family and helping it move forward. And that's a treat. That's a real, benefit to me professionally and personally.
And what
But you're not telling people what to think, like, hey, this is how you should do. You're probably telling people, hey, look within.
exactly
And
like when
what are your values?
Sure, you can't. I don't impose my own values onto the client. That's part of taking my ego out of it as the lawyer and not projecting. Classic example is a parenting plan. I always get asked by clients, well, what's normal?
Right.
And the first response is, there is no normal because families are like snowflakes. Everybody's different. Every family's different. A 9 to 5 not everybody works 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and no parenting plan is going to fit every family. You have a
but some people are
firefighter.
terrified to have to think for themselves.
well, again, like I
like,
pointed
what
out,
if I make a mistake? You
Indeed,
think for me.
But
Well,
what I can inform them of, look, you're asking me what's a normal 50-50 time sharing schedule, and I'll tell you, here's a couple of different common ones. This is what worked for me in 2000 and from 2005 to 2010. But that might not be right for you. This has to be what works for you and your family. I once had a family who literally followed an every other day schedule. Now that would have made me insane. I could have never done it in my divorce with my minor children. But it worked for this family. So I use those as examples to say, look, here are some examples. This is what worked for me. It may completely not be the right solution for your family. You have to figure out what's right for you.
and much like I pointed out, the woman who called me, what should I do? Should I let him in the house for the hurricane? I said, what would it be like for you if you didn't? And that's all I said.
Right.
And
Not
so,
what Randy
right,
thinks
not
you
what
should
I
do.
Correct.
Or not what
correct.
some book says this is the right answer, because
Yeah, follow
as
your
we
heart.
all know,
Look within.
Correct.
there is no
Look
textbook
within.
right answer.
Right.
She wasn't required to let him in, nor was she compelled to.
Right.
She had to make a choice.
She had to look within, right? And we do exactly what Nancy's saying. We provide options and possibilities, and we do as a team a lot of
Right.
option generating.
So it sounds like it is a personal growth process too, collaborative.
Oh, so much.
That
I
people
learn
learn
from
about
every time.
themselves. Now the professionals too. But then when you were talking
case.
about the quote from Rumi, one came to mind, and it's Carl Jung, that he who looks outside dreams, and he who looks inside awakens.
Beautiful.
And so-
I like that. I might have to steal that. Yeah, it's so true. And the other thing I was thinking as I was listening to Nancy, I think we know each other. Maybe it's
Close to 10
close
years.
to, I was going to say close to 10 years, and we've become friends. And so many of I was at Nancy's wedding. So many of the collaborative colleagues of mine have become my friends, good friends, because we're like-minded. We're growing together. Even if, we, as Nancy, we were talking about earlier, there are times we disagree. We disagree in a different kind of way, and we all know that we have everybody's best interest at heart. And so you become friends with your colleagues because you're like-minded, and
You develop trust.
yeah, trust.
Trust is huge, and when you learn who means what they say, you learn who does what they promise, who follows through.
I mean, who has integrity?
Yeah,
Integrity is a huge part.
It is.
It's a huge part.
If you don't have integrity,
That's right.
this is not the process for you.
That's
People are not going to want to work with you.
Right. I actually, I didn't mention this, but I wrote my dissertation on the mental health professional working in collaborative practice, and I researched lawyers and mental health professionals and financial professionals throughout the country and in Canada as well. And what I found was that there are discipline-specific skills and values and attitudes that we bring to the table, and then there are shared values and skills and attitudes that we bring to the table. And without those, and without the integration of those, we can't be successful. We can't have successful outcomes. And trust and like-mindedness and shared values and integrity were top on the list of the things that we all bring to the table
To be a successful team.
to be a successful
And now that
team.
does not happen because it fell from the sky. One of the things that's really unique about the collaborative process is a lot of the hardest work takes place outside of the meetings.
Great point.
Where the team itself, the facilitator like Randy, the lawyers like you and I, and the neutral financial professional meet either in person, by phone, by Skype, and through continuous email communication, text message communication. We are working all the time to be on the same page, to plan ahead, to talk about where are the pitfalls, where are the landmines for this family, for this couple. How can we better deliver this team service to these clients? What went well in that first meeting? What didn't? Randy and I once, many years ago, I think it was about 7 years ago, did a case where both clients had made sort of a casual mention of having difficulties with one of their children. But they really minimized the nature of the issue. So much so to the point that no one brought up to Randy that here was this hidden landmine relating to their daughter. And in the middle of one of the group meetings, the subject, Randy, very innocently said, well, what about your daughter? And the clients just lost it. It nearly blew up the entire meeting, because what turned out was there was a really big elephant in the room where it related to their daughter. And none of us knew that it was there. Now, after this meeting, we didn't look around and go, wow, whose fault was that? We looked around and went, wow, that was a really unexpected landmine. What could we do in the future?
It was an adult daughter? Or
No,
minor?
minor daughter.
And there was a major mental health issue that was really affecting the entire family dynamic in a really substantial way. And the clients themselves did not clue in anyone in the team about it. So from that, I know Randy and I both developed some processes, because this was when we were much earlier in the development of collaborative practice here in Broward. And one of the things that I know that Randy developed from that was meeting with the clients before. She now always meets with the clients ahead of the meeting so that she can more specifically flesh out these hidden landmines.
Hot topics, as we call them.
Hot topics. Because lawyers aren't as good at that.
Right.
We're much better at fleshing out the legal issues. But this dynamic, this family dynamic issue was something that really would be much more likely to be discovered by the facilitator, who asks a different sort of question. Much more about dynamics and family processes. And where are these hidden hot topics that lawyers are frankly, sometimes we're oblivious to.
And what's really important as well is to mention that we as mental health professionals, we're not doing therapy. In this process, we are not doing therapy.
Right.
However, we are utilizing our clinical skills to be able to identify these issues that might need therapeutic intervention. And so if that's the case, we're able to identify issues, as I said, and refer clients to get support from outside therapists who also should be collaboratively trained so that they understand our process and can help to support these members of the system in a way that they can move through the divorce process and beyond. Because as we know, even after we're through, the year after divorce is usually targeted as the most difficult for families, making that transition. And much like Nancy was talking about before, it's a painful process, much like the grieving process.
Exactly.
And almost more difficult because the person is still out there, right? So in death, you hopefully come to a point of acceptance where you know this person's gone and they live on in your mind, and however you need to make that work for you. But in this process, that person, you have to interact with that person, particularly if you have children, you have to interact with that person for the rest of your life. And so it makes that grieving process all the more difficult to move through. And so helping them to develop the skills that they need to do that, whether it's with outside intervention or through our process, is a big part of what we do as well.
Right.
George?
Well,
You've
I got
been so
nothing to
quiet.
add. No, dude, I'm soaking it all in, taking notes. These are really wonderful people.
Okay.
Well, we love what we do.
It's the best part of what I get to do.
You know,
It really
I
is.
wish I had gone that route, but we won't go through that again. You know,
We did it before.
every-
Well, both of us are divorced, and also when you were saying the insane every other day sharing schedule, there I am.
And you know, for some people it works.
Right.
Yeah, it works because
Who am I to
never
judge?
2 days goes by that I don't see my daughter.
And
Right.
this, and in that particular case, these parties lived within walking distance of one another's house. They lived in the same neighborhood, within the same large country club type community. And she could literally walk from one house to the other. So, I mean, it's not going to work in every instance, but nothing does. And the really important part of that is the lawyer or the facilitator or mediator or any other person outside that family, they should not be making that decision. They should be helping the clients examine all of the available options and then vetting those options, looking at the pluses. I mean, everything has a plus and a minus, pros and cons.
That's right.
So the real key is for us to help them eliminate options that clearly will not work for an identifiable, agreed upon reason. Oh, that's not going to work. We live 45 miles apart. This will not physically work. But helping them understand their options, vetting them, weighing the pros and cons, being the voice of playing devil's advocate as a lawyer in a collaborative setting. I am still my client's devil's advocate, helping them look at what they want and going, okay, that all sounds great.
Yeah, you
Is
still
there
have to have
anything
their
wrong
back
with
and
that?
show
Sure.
them
Right.
pitfalls.
You gotta
Sure.
plan for disaster. You know, you've got to plan. You know, hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Right.
So that's still my job as the lawyer in the collaborative. But what's beautiful is I get to problem solve with the other attorney and
the
saying,
facilitator.
we know we need to get them to a finish line. How, with this professional team, can we all row these clients in the same direction when we know there is a finish line, but you know exactly where on that finish line we're going to end up? That's something that we've got to help these people navigate, because one of them may want to be 100 yards, you know, that way, and the other one a little 100 yards to the other way. They got to get there, and our job is to help them find, you know, the balance between each person's needs and where can they make reasonable accommodations.
And to your point, I love our saying, we go as fast as the slowest person. And so that's the other thing that we're attuned to.
Yep.
Is where are they in their process? Because most often they come in and, you know, as you must know, as we all know, having gone through divorce, different entities of our system are at different points in the process.
Especially if
so-
one is the initiator
That's
and
right.
one isn't. I
That's
mean,
right.
the rare occasion is you have two people who walk in and go, look, it's not working for either one of us. We don't hate each other, but man, this is not working and we just need to figure this out. It happens about 1 in like
Right.
20 times.
And even in those cases,
Oh,
there's
there's still issues.
You know, there are still 2 steps forward, 1 step
Yep.
back.
Everything sounds all rosy
Right,
when you
and-
first meet them.
Correct.
until you're trying to
And then
figure
you get
out
an
that
impasse.
401k, or you're
Correct.
talking about, you know, I put your name on that, but we all know it was money from dad, and you know, how's that? You know,
Or-
there's the legal, and then there's the ethical, and what one person thinks is fair, the other person goes, yeah, that might be fair, but you know, I know the law says that that's half mine.
Right.
It's
And
not always
So,
easy to navigate.
for some reason, from what we've been talking about now, another yoga principle jumped up into my mind, a thing that you're supposed to not refrain from doing, and that is serve a higher purpose.
That's right.
Yes.
And so it sounds to me like there is some objective that you have, and that it is a higher purpose, and that you think that you're serving your clients if you're helping them do what? Find peace, find
That's right.
happiness, let
That's
go, not resist things that are good for them.
Right. Well, I can tell you that I received the most beautiful compliment the other day where I left a collaborative meeting and I got a text from the wife who said, you've truly found your calling. And so to say it's a calling is so fitting
All
for
right.
me.
So to piggyback on Randy's story, for the litigators out there, imagine for a moment you're in a case that is being litigated. And from the beginning, you've tried to do it neutrally, but the first attorney hired was a complete litigator. We go through the early stages of the case. A lot of money is spent. A shockingly large amount of money is spent. About $75,000 on the two sides. And when I tell you, actually nothing had been accomplished with that money, I literally mean nothing. Fortunately, I was representing the husband. Fortunately, the wife got a wake-up call and realized what was going on. And she fired her litigating attorney and hired a collaborative attorney. We resolved the case over the next several months. It was a very financially complex case, but financial complex cases have answers. They're really easy, much easier to resolve than child custody complex cases, because there are no numbers associated with that. But when something has numbers associated with it and you do the math, you can find the solution. These people needed that. They found it. We used a neutral financial professional. We got them to the finish line. And at the final hearing, as we waited for our turn to go in, because we were all there, the wife, who had not been my client, first asked me for pictures of my grandchild, because she knew I'd had a grandchild recently, wanted to see pictures. And then she thanked me for helping her family and gave me a hug with tears in her eyes. Now, I've been litigating for 32 years. That's never happened to me before, where the opposing party thanked me, hugged me, and wanted to find out how my grandchild was.
Yeah. And those kinds of experiences lead you to want to do more and more and more of this work. And, you know, I say,
It's the best feeling.
I can't change the world, but maybe I can do it one family at a time.
Yeah.
You know? I often say, I wish we were collaborating in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I wonder how, you know, our political arena would be different if people use these skills. As a matter of fact,
I heard it's as easy as just repeating some word 3 times in some countries.
Yes, it is.
As a matter of fact, I think you'll agree.
Talaq?
Yeah.
Talaq.
Talaq,
right?
talaq, talaq.
Talaq, and you're divorced.
That's in parts of India and Afghanistan.
right?
Yeah.
I'll bet there's a lot of people listening to this show who are drooling at that now.
and in
like,
ancient
why couldn't I
Judaism,
just do that?
Yeah.
I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you.
Well, I can also tell you that it's not unusual for couples who are going through this process to turn to me and say, we wish we knew you before. Because perhaps if they knew how to do these things differently when they were married, they wouldn't be getting divorced.
Okay, so that's a good transition. Being the president and vice president of the Collaborative Family Law Professionals of South Florida, you say you wish more people knew about the process. How do you get the word out so people know that there's an alternative to duking it out in court and seeing who's the victor when the dust settles?
Every way you can think of.
Well, part of it is this.
Yep, we're here today, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
for
also
letting us promote it.
Also, I wrote a course and teach it at Nova Southeastern University in the Department of Family Therapy for master's and doctoral family therapy students who are going to be in the front lines working with couples who aren't making it, right? So couples who aren't making it go seek marriage counseling. And sometimes it works and it's helpful. And other times it's helpful in that it leads people to know where they need to be. And so educating professionals who are going to be connecting with these people and moving them in the right direction is really, really a wonderful way. We have not only do we have local practice groups where groups of professionals meet together monthly and talk about cases and talk about clients and talk about ethics and other educational topics. We have a statewide organization, the Florida Academy of Collaborative Professionals, and each city or local group gets together and they develop public awareness programs.
We've done all kinds of different marketing.
Advertising?
We have done an NPR campaign, a
Yes.
statewide sponsored. The practice groups participated in a 13-week NPR campaign. We have most of the lawyers who practice collaborative promoted on their websites. The Collaborative Family Law Professionals of South Florida has its website. And fortunately for all collaborative practitioners and for all divorcing couples, Florida just in 2017 got a statute and a rule going into effect, which went into effect July 1st. July 1st.
Yeah.
That gives a framework, an official legal framework for the collaborative practice. It defines what is a collaborative case, which requires the signing of a participation agreement, because this is a voluntary process. You cannot be court ordered to collaborate yet. You can be court ordered to mediate, but not collaborate. But if you are, there is a certain legal framework to protect the process, to keep it confidential from the courts, just like mediation, because the courts want to encourage you to solve your problems and not have to fear that what you said in a collaborative settlement conference to try to resolve your case can then be used against you in court.
And you were
Very important.
You were mentioning the most important part of the process, which is the participation agreement.
Because it governs everybody's
right.
behavior. It governs the expectations.
And it also prohibits anyone from going to court.
Right.
So within the collaborative process. So the participation agreement, as I like to think about it, is the cornerstone of the collaborative process, and it really protects the process because we all sign agreements not to go to court. So there's no threatening to go to court.
Right.
Where in mediation, if it doesn't work, you know the next step
Right.
is to the courthouse.
Well, if you don't do this, I'm
Right.
going to file
Right.
this.
So in the participation agreement, we all sign an agreement not to go to court, and if anybody wants to go to court, then they lose all of the team. And so the attorneys cannot represent them in court. And so that is, to my mind, leverage and motivation to work it out.
Because
and
the
to make
client
it work.
already has a trusting relationship
Sure.
with that particular attorney, and then to
And
change
That's
attorneys
right.
midstream.
And the attorney, speaking as one trained to do this, it's a big shift for the lawyers. And truthfully, not all lawyers can do it. I've collaborated with many lawyers. Some are better at this than others. I know it takes practice. I'm sure I'm more collaborative today than I was in my very first collaborative case, but I still remember it. Lori Barkas, I'm thinking of you, my collaborative attorney
she
friend.
might be watching. She's
She
one
might
of my
be,
Facebook
and
friends too.
she and I had my very first collaborative case was with Lori on the other side, and it's a shift for the lawyers because we have to really think in a different way and shift our minds because we are completely invested in the settlement. There is no threat of litigation, and for me, I've always said that a trial in a family case, to me, is a professional loss. I don't consider my win-loss record as to whether or I won or lost a divorce trial. I consider my win-loss record to the cases that I lost are the ones that had to go to trial in the first place, because all cases need to be resolved outside.
But you
of
like
court
going to
family
trial,
courts.
don't you?
No, I only really like going to trial on enforcement matters. I like being the white knight coming in to right the wrong and to hold people accountable when they do things wrong. I don't really enjoy taking a divorce case to trial. But I love taking someone to task when they've not paid their support, when they've not honored their time-sharing agreement, when they've otherwise failed to live up to court orders or agreements that they've made. That I do enjoy.
And think about that. At trial, people outside of your family are making decisions, all the decisions about your family.
And they don't even
So
know you.
There's a judge who's making a decision about children that they have no idea what these children's needs are. They have no idea what the parents' needs
And
are.
different
really.
values, different life
values. That's right. As a matter of fact,
experiences.
it stands out in my mind. I went to a mediation CLE not too long ago, and the judge, who will go unnamed, was a guest speaker, and he came into the room and he said, "Tell your clients they need to settle." And I looked at him and he said, "Because the way I rule depends on how I woke up that day. The way I rule depends on what happened the night before. The way I rule depends on what my mother did to me or what my mother didn't do for me. Or
He was exaggerating a
he-
little,
he
but
Only a little.
said that. He said, tell your clients this story. So I share this story. And the other thing, when you asked before, how do we get the word out? So we have had bumper stickers that say, talk to me about collaborative. So whoever I meet, and they
Can I
say,
have one?
absolutely. And they say, what is it that you do? I work collaboratively to help families. And then we tell anyone who will listen about the work that we're doing, because it's so important. So I talk to my hair technician. I talk to my nail technician. I mean, they're the front lines also. People are going through struggles, and who do you talk to? You talk to the bartender. You talk to the nail tech. You talk to the person who
well, it sounds
combs
to
your hair.
me like the yoga community are willing recipients
Wonderful.
of finding a piece. So, you know, like
Which is
there's
why
these
we're going to have-
magazines that,
That's
that I
right.
see professionals advertising in collaborative
That's right.
family.
Which is why we just
advertising.
invited you to lead our yoga segments at our upcoming training in January. And that's the other way. So we
I have a very unique method. I just crack a whip and you will meditate.
Works every time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I want to mention this. We need a plug for this. We at the Collaborative Family Law Professionals of South Florida, we sponsor a training for professionals to become
Lawyers, mental health professionals, financial professionals, all to become trained in collaborative.
That's right. And so we have the Tampa Bay Collaborative professionals coming down, the Tampa Bay
Collaborative
trainers coming down
Same
from
guys who
Tampa.
did it last
yeah,
year.
and they
They
were
were
awesome,
awesome.
amazing.
Adam Cordova.
Yeah, and Jeremy Gaze and Kristen DeMaio, and they are coming down to train for us in January 12th, 13th, and 14th. And it's going to be a wonderful 3 days. And on the third
At
day...
Nova Southeastern University.
That's right. And it'll be a wonderful 3 days. And on the third day, we're going to have our local professionals offering advanced training in conflict resolution, in emotional regulation, in making those paradigm shifts in ethics. And the other very important part of this training is it's a fundraiser, because I also do a program in conjunction with my students at Nova Southeastern University where we have a pro bono veterans project. And so our...
I was going to ask that.
yeah, it's
Collaborative
really important.
process
We
isn't
partner
cheap,
with-
right?
No,
I mean,
we
how do you
partner-
make it
so-
available
okay,
to all
so
different
here's what
kinds of
happens.
people
So,
who can afford it?
Partnering with Mission United.
Yes, so we partner with Mission United, which is legal aid of Broward County, and my students work as facilitators, and our professionals from our organization volunteer their time, and we take veteran families through pro bono divorces. We've done 3 cases thus far, and they've all said it's been transformative for them. We also have programs now being developed where we do more affordable, we call it low bono. And
Sliding scale.
And we have some flat rate programs where we're trying to make it accessible to the public. I've received 3 grants from the international collaborative community to work on this pro bono project, and where we have...
Are there any like international peace foundations that may be good granting sources, or
I don't know, but if you come up with any, let us
Right,
know.
let us know.
We'll be applying.
But the International Collaborative
Because-
Organization, the IACP, International Academy of Collaborative Professionals, that's our umbrella organization. They have a grant program called Access to Collaboration, and they fund people who are developing programs to make collaborative practice accessible to people of modest means. So we're really, really trying to spread the word and spread the wealth.
because Nancy
will.
mentioned before, and I think that you were sort of trying to be prescient and even years ahead, though, about how maybe it'll be court mandated, the collaborative process. Family cases require mediation before a final hearing, and there are other type of cases, depending upon the circuit, where before you go to trial, the judges require you to go to court-ordered
Well, mediation was
to try
around
to-
for a long time before it got to be court mandated. We just got a collaborative statute. We'll take that and be happy with it, and maybe one day it'll actually be a program that courts divert people into, and that they can choose that they'll be given a choice. They have to go to alternative dispute resolution, and that they will have a choice between mediation or collaboration, and that it'll at least be one of the options that they are mandated to.
With some sort of funding assistance so that it becomes accessible.
Well, that'll be
just
right.
like that there are court paid in-house mediators.
Well, what's
in the-
happening now, sorry to interrupt you, but to that point, so my students have an internship that they have to do after they complete my course. And so they're offering their services. And so they're making the collaborative process accessible in conjunction with our volunteer. All attorneys have to do pro bono work, right?
We do.
I think Brow would be a great place for a pilot program
is.
for a court-ordered
It is
collaborative.
Well, you'll have to help us put that together.
Actually, I believe
I'm
in Miami.
volunteering myself right
Great.
now.
Actually, I believe in Miami there's a pilot program with the courts doing pro bono work with the Collaborative Family Law Institute in Miami, and they're doing some pro bono work through the court now. So, it's spreading, and the hopes are, as we said, it's transformative personally. So we're hoping that people are going to really recognize that this is a better way.
And if divorce is in your future, if you are not getting along with your children's other parent, because a lot of unmarried parents out there, if you're a same-sex couple who are concerned that the traditional litigation might not work for you, seek out a collaborative professional. Have a conversation about this process before you make a decision on how you move forward to transition your family from an intact relationship to two separate households, because this can really help your family in a really big way.
It's really the difference that makes a difference, we like to say.
Super. Well, I'm hearing the Beatles playing, so this is my time to sort of wrap it up. I want to thank both of you for what you do in the community, helping bring people together to make peaceful solutions for their families and their lives, and for training people like me to be able to participate in it. And thank you for being so welcoming and inviting me to share some mindfulness at the training like last time. You can find Nancy Brodsky how, if you wanted to find her?
You can reach me 954-344-7737, or visit our website, brodskyjacobs.com.
And Dr. Randy Heller?
You can find me at familynetworkflorida.com or 954-236-4490, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Super. And you can find me too. I have a website, lawandmediationllc.com. My name is Stuart Reed, and you can always find George Rodriguez here at SoFloRadio.com.
Streaming live from the beautiful city of Hollywood, Florida, USA. This is SoFloRadio.com.